Planes are such a critical transport link for everyone around the world, made even more prominent with the latest health crisis. But going back to happier times, what were the 10 busiest direct airport-to-airport routes when flying was at its peak? Starting off at number 10, we'll fly off to Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, on the west of Java Island. Here we have a flight from the capital to Surabaya on the eastern end of Java Island. Whilst only 700 kilometers, this route has 65 non-stop flights a day across 6 different airlines, carrying a total of 5.65 million people in 2018. This works out to just over 15,000 people a day, which is insane considering it's at number 10. Whilst this flight only takes an hour and a half, this is far quicker when compared to taking the 9-hour drive or even taking the train. At number 9, we head off to Japan's capital, Tokyo. Being the largest city in the world, you'd expect this to be on the list. The 9th busiest flight in the world flies from Tokyo Haneda Airport to Naha, a tropical island in the south. This is the longest domestic flight on this list, standing at 1,573 kilometers. It transported a total of 5.8 million people in 2018 across 3 different airlines, taking the total of roughly 2 hours 40 minutes to complete. Whilst I don't know how many flights there were at its peak, I can imagine it being around 31 a week during the last month at least, which works out to about 16,000 people a day throughout 2018. At number 8, we head over to Hong Kong. This being the only international route on the list at the time, linked Hong Kong with Taipei Taiwan Airport with up to 80 flights a day. This works out as about 1 every 18 minutes, which allowed a total of 6.47 million people to be transported. It's a relatively short route at only 802 kilometers, operated by at least 7 different airlines. It would take only an hour and 50 minutes to complete the journey, and in terms of number of people a day transported, it comes in at 17,743 a day. At number 7, we travel slightly further north to China's capital, Beijing. Again, as one of the most populated nations on Earth, you'd expect it to be on the list. The 1,080 kilometer flight travels from Beijing to its financial heart, Shanghai, transporting 6.5 million people on the 2-hour and 5-minute flight on 8 different airlines. That's 17,860 people a day. Now, imagine this is only between one of Beijing and one of Shanghai's airport, so imagine how many more flights there are. And even more amazingly, a super high-speed train operates between the two cities, taking only 4 hours and 17 minutes. At number 6, we stay in Asia, heading to Vietnam. The busiest route is between its 2 largest cities, Ho Chi Minh in the south and Hanoi in the north, a total of 1,170 kilometers by plane. It transports 6.8 million people in 2018, which is about 18,800 a day. The flight is 2 hours and 10 minutes long and can be taken on one of the 74 daily flights operated by at least 8 different airlines. This saves on the 31-hour train ride or 38-hour bus ride, which probably is quite worthwhile. Halfway through at number 5, we head over to India. I'm sure you might have guessed this route, which is between Mumbai and Delhi, which sees 7.4 million people in the skies, which is about 20,000 a day. At a total of 1,150 kilometers, the flight takes about 2 hours and 10 minutes, with upwards of 60 flights a day. It would take about 21 hours by train, or 25 hours if you decide to drive and have the nerves for it. At number 4, we're heading back to Japan, again to Tokyo, with a flight from its capital to Fukuoka. I probably butchered that name. But the flight takes under 2 hours to travel the 889 kilometers on one of 4 alternate airlines. It transports 8.76 million people in 2018 on one of its 60 daily flights. That's 24,000 a day near enough. And if you were to drive, it would take you at least 13 hours non-stop and an astonishing 5 hours and 15 minutes by train, which happens to run every half hour. Finally, in the top 3, we head outside Asia for the first and only time, heading to Australia. Now, it will come to no surprise that the most popular route is between Sydney and Melbourne, with somewhere around the region of 80 flights a day across 6 different airlines. The journey is relatively short, only 705 kilometers, but transports a staggering 9.24 million people, which is about 25,000 people a day. There probably are far more driving, as it only takes 9 hours, or the train, which somehow takes more than 11. The second most popular airport route is back in Asia, in Japan yet again, and as you'd guessed, it is from Tokyo, flying north this time to Sapporo, the more mountainous region of Japan. With upwards of 60 flights a day, it transports 9.69 million people on the 889-kilometer journey. This equates to about 26,500 people a day on the 1.5-hour flight. Trains are slightly longer at 4 hours. And finally, spot number 1 for the busiest airport route in the world, based on the 2018 data anyway, is South Korea. Yes, a wildcard, at least for me. The busiest route is also the shortest at only 450 kilometers between the city of Seoul and the island of Jeju. With a flight time of only an hour, I'm amazed at how busy it is, carrying a staggering 14.1 million people between the two locations. And based on the stats from the last 30 days, this route has 129 flights daily between 7 different airlines, and that equates to 38,650 people a day, which is absolutely insane. Now, so no one is left behind, let's go through the top ones around various regions. In the Middle East, the most popular route is between Riyadh and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, transporting 5.5 million people. This makes it the 12th busiest route in the world and works out to about 15,000 people a day. Meanwhile, in Europe, the most popular point-to-point route is Barcelona to Madrid in Spain, at 2.46 million people, which equates to about 6,700 a day. This is pretty low when you compare it to the rest of the world, but this could possibly be due to better transport connections. It's so far down, it doesn't even make the top 50. In the US and Canada, there could be quite a few, but it's the famous New York to LA route, which comes in at the 27th busiest route in the world, transporting 3.97 million people, which equates to about 10,800 a day. It's also nearly the longest, at about 4,000 kilometers. And in Africa, do you happen to know what the busiest route is? Well, it transports 4.5 million people a year, and it's between Cape Town and Joburg in South Africa. This is also the 25th busiest route in the world, so well done if you did guess this right. Anyway, all, as always, thanks for watching, keep safe, and I'll see you next time.